There is a kind of man who never asks for directions, not because he knows the way, but because admitting he is lost feels worse than staying lost. This is not strength, this is pride, and pride is the quietest poison there is. It does not kill you suddenly, it kills you slowly, one refused hand at a time. Nobody understood this too late more painfully than a young man named Kenji. Once in the city of Kyoto, where ancient temples stood beside rushing rivers and cherry blossom trees lined every stone path, there lived a young craftsman named Kenji. Kenji came from a long line of woodworkers. His grandfather had carved the wooden gates of 3 temples in the city. His father had built furniture that people waited 2 years to receive. Kenji had talent, real talent. Everyone saw it. But Kenji also knew he had talent, and that was the beginning of his problem. From the time he was a young apprentice in his father's workshop, Kenji resisted instruction. When his father showed him how to read the grain of the wood before cutting, Kenji nodded politely and then did it his own way. When his master craftsman told him to slow down and feel the tool rather than force it, Kenji smiled and kept his same aggressive pace. He was fast, his work looked good, and in his mind that was enough. At 24, Kenji opened his own workshop, a small, beautiful space near the Kamo River with clean wooden walls and the smell of fresh cedar in the air. He was proud of it, more proud than he had ever been of anything. His first few months were promising. Customers came, they admired his work, they placed small orders. But then an older craftsman named Hiroshi came to visit. Hiroshi walked slowly around Kenji's workshop, running his fingers along the finished pieces, examining the joints, studying the cuts. Then he sat down and said gently, "Kenji, your work is beautiful on the surface, but your joints are cut too fast. In 6 months they will begin to separate. Your customers will notice." Kenji felt something hot rise in his chest. He thanked Hiroshi. He smiled. He walked him to the door. And he changed nothing. 3 months later, the first customer came back. A dining table Kenji had built with pride. One of the joints had begun to split. Then a second customer, then a third. Word moved quickly in Kyoto. In a city built on craft and reputation, word always moved quickly. Kenji's orders slowed, then stopped. He told himself the customers simply did not understand fine craftsmanship. He told himself he just needed one big commission to prove himself. He was still not listening. Then an opportunity came. A temple committee was selecting a craftsman to restore an ancient wooden shrine gate, the most prestigious commission in the city that year. Kenji applied. His portfolio was impressive enough to get him an interview. At the interview, an elderly master named Tanaka sat across from him. Tanaka had restored 4 shrine gates in his lifetime. He was regarded as the greatest living woodworker in Kyoto. Tanaka looked at Kenji's work carefully. Then he said, "You have tremendous potential, but I see the same weakness in every piece. Will you accept guidance during this project? This gate must last another 300 years." Kenji looked at Tanaka. This man was the most respected craftsman in the city. The commission would change everything. And Kenji said, "I work best independently. I know what I am doing." Tanaka nodded slowly and gave the commission to someone else. Kenji walked home through the cherry blossom paths of Kyoto that evening, feeling wronged, feeling unseen, feeling certain that the world had not recognized what he was worth. He did not once consider that the world had offered him a hand and he had slapped it away. 6 months later, his workshop closed. He moved back into his father's house, his tools in boxes in the corner, his pride the only thing he had not lost, and even that was beginning to crack. Filled was his grandfather's notebook, filled with sketches, measurements, notes, mistakes and lessons learned from decades of listening to masters who came before. His father said only this, "Your grandfather was the most gifted craftsman in this family." But he always said the same thing. The wood teaches you if you are willing to be taught. Pride makes you deaf to the wood. and a deaf craftsman builds things that fall apart. Kenji sat with that for a long time. Then he picked up the notebook. He read every page, every mistake his grandfather had recorded, every lesson, every time the old man had been wrong, and had written it down honestly so that someone after him would not have to be wrong in the same way. The next morning, Kenji went to find Hiroshi. He stood at the old man's door and said simply, "I was not ready to hear you the first time. I am ready now. Will you teach me?" Hiroshi looked at him for a long moment, then he opened the door. It took Kenji 2 more years to rebuild his reputation. 2 years of listening, 2 years of slowing down, 2 years of allowing hands more experienced than his to guide his own. But he rebuilt it, and the work he produced in those 2 years was nothing like the work of the proud young man who had stood in his workshop certain he already knew everything worth knowing. It was quieter, deeper, built to last. At 29, Kenji received a commission to restore a small temple gate on the outskirts of Kyoto. Not the grand commission he had dreamed of, but real and earned. He worked slowly. He listened to the wood. He asked questions when he was unsure. He let experienced hands show him things he could not yet see alone. When the gate was finished, Hiroshi came to see it. The old man ran his weathered hands along the joints. He examined every cut. He stood back and looked at the full piece in silence. Then he nodded once. That single nod meant more to Kenji than any applause he had ever received in his life. Because it was not given to his pride. It was given to his work. Kenji did not fail because he lacked talent. He failed because he could not separate himself from his talent long enough to improve it. Pride does that. It wraps itself around your ability and tells you that accepting help is the same as admitting weakness. That listening to someone more experienced means they are better than you. That slowing down means falling behind. But none of that is true. The strongest bridges in the world were not built by one person who refused all advice. They were built by many hands, many minds, many generations of people willing to say, "I do not know everything yet. Show me." There is no shame in being taught. The shame is in the years lost, refusing to be. Look around you right now. Is there someone in your life who has already walked the road you are on? Someone who has tried to show you something, and you smiled and nodded and changed nothing? That person is not your competition. They are your shortcut. And pride is the only thing standing between you and everything they could teach you. You do not have to lose your workshop. You do not have to watch your reputation dissolve quietly in a city that does not forget. You can choose to listen now. Before the joints begin to separate, before the customers stop coming, before Tanaka gives the commission to someone else. The wood teaches you if you are willing to be taught, but you have to be willing.